and welcome to Stephen University. This week we're of course discussing the rather brilliant Maid of Honor. What do you think, Chris?
This episode, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bomb, so it's not this week. It's this episode.
Ah, shit. Yeah, all right. Pretend take two.
Saying.
Hello and welcome to Stephen University. This episode we're discussing Maid of Honor.
I think you did it too quick. Here, let me.
Mm-hmm.
Hello and welcome to Stephen University. On this week's episode, fucking hell. Sorry.
was
an aggressive reaction.
Was the frustration there just out of because of all the times it's totally okay to cock up something? The time that you can never cock it up is when you go, "I've got this."
Well, hold on. You had two, so you had two.
There you go. Okay, there you go. Take 4.
Hello and welcome to Thursday's edition of Stephen University Bomb number 7. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about Maid of Honor. Oh yeah, that was it. Thank you, Dan.
Very good. And that might sound, one clap on its own always sounds sarcastic, but I promise this is a sincere, sincere clap, sincere applause. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll just go.
So Dan, as I've done the introduction, tell us, Dan, what was it about?
Very good. So this week's episode was called Maid of Honor. It was about, it started with Ruby and Sapphire in the wedding planning phase, as Chris predicted last week. It becomes apparent pretty quickly that they don't have as many people to invite as they would like, and it forces Sapphire to sort of think backwards for once, and she starts wondering about the gems left behind, the gems corrupted, the friends they used to have, that they would love to be present for this. They debate briefly the idea of bringing up the bubbles, but that's too risky. If any of them break, then it's monsters unleashed on Beach City again. Stephen hears this, takes this on board, and decides that the best possible solution might be to... Well, he is writing out the cards for the seating plan, and he suddenly has a moment of clarity, and he writes bismuth on one in one of the coolest reveals in ages. It's not like there's anything cool revealed definitely. In Single Pale Rose. No, it's a really great reveal because it's so simple. He writes the name on the card, but when you implant that with the bismuth sort of guitar music that's so iconic now, it's really cool. He unleashes Bismuth, who's mad at first, but then he tells the story of what really happened, and Bismuth suddenly understands after all this time why Rose's plan made no sense, and also why.
Well, no, he unbubbles the corrupted gem, and that really.
Oh, sure, yeah. So, So Bismuth, she sees one of the gems that they knew. In fact, she sees several gems she recognizes. She tries to release one, and it turns into a monster, and it forces. In one of the cooler moments, actually, Stephen slides under Bismuth's legs and creates a bubble to protect Bismuth from the slam of that creature. That creature, actually, by the way, I believe is one of the creatures that Jasper tried to fuse with. One of the
that's what I thought. Yeah,
it looked like it design-wise. So it's weird to know that was like a friend of Bismuth's at some point. It's kind of sad, but really kind of heartbreaking, and really drives the whole point home. And then, Stephen tells Bismuth the truth. Bismuth finally understands why Rose's war strategy made no sense. Stephen's like, well, you're invited to the wedding. It's why I came down here. Bismuth doesn't know what a wedding is, I assume. Stephen properly explains off screen. And then he's about to reveal the surprise of, hey, everyone, Bismuth is here, when Bismuth vanishes. She doesn't feel... Stephen follows to the forge, and it turns out she doesn't feel able to confront the other guys because, as far as Bismuth is concerned, she attacked their leader. Stephen thinks this was referring to Rose. Bismuth says, no, it's you. Someone's making them believe in the future, and it's you. And how are they going to react to me when they know the last thing that I did was try to hurt you? Stephen, is his usual charming Stephen self, convinces Bismuth that they will want to see Bismuth, and they go back. Everyone's super excited to see Bismuth, except for Peridot, who's just like, you can introduce me, which is one of my favourite parts of the episode. And then they reveal one of I think the sweetest moments, which is that Bismuth has brought a present for the wedding, and it is in fact the rings, which Bismuth will have forged at the forge. End episode.
Good recap, Dan.
Thanks, Chris.
What did you think? How did you feel about the episode?
Oh, we can't do the reverse roles all episode. I just described it. I
just
described it. Yeah, I just described it. It's your turn. Go. How do you feel?
Yeah, no, I loved it, man. I loved seeing Bismuth. I think
Would you have predicted that?
No. It was a bit. You the other week, you were like, Jasper's bubbled, Bismuth is bubbled, and I did think, Bismuth.
That wasn't my intention. I was just thinking back to other people that could crash the wedding.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have predicted this at all. But again, something that makes sense. I think we did talk about her when we talked about, I think during our Mammoth Single Pale Rose episode.
Yes, I very much said
then.
There's got to be a point in which that Jasper and Bismuth learn the truth, and that will massively affect how they feel about everything.
Yeah. So it was cool to see that. I think one of my favourite elements of it, and again, I say it all the time, if Steven University had a drinking game, take a shot. Such a clever, brilliant idea that makes complete sense that I wouldn't have thought of. And I loved that notion. And that's not me being like, come on guys, if I didn't think of it. But it just, I don't think many people would have guessed it or theorised it. But of course you would do this. So, I love it when they do stuff like that. And because it just highlights such great writing. Other thing I love about it is, we get the cool thing with the corrupted gem, and that's an awesome visual, and it looks great. But fundamentally, at its core, Stephen and Bismuth sort their shit out by sitting down and talking.
Yes.
That's amazing. Like, that's so cool. That's such a nice notion. And really, I think in a way, Bismuth had the closest reaction to the news that fans would have had. Like, Bismuth's reaction was the closest to mine, and Bismuth's in some ways feels like the most natural reaction, or at the very least a reaction most of us would have had and Hell probably did have. So I thought it was great. I think it was one of my favourite episodes of The Bomb so far, I'd argue, actually. I liked... The first episode gets a lot of points because it just gave us some answers. And I really liked the twist of the second episode of what Amethyst was doing. And I liked yesterday's episode, for its rompiness. But actually, as a complete episode, this is probably the one I enjoyed and would be tempted to, rewatch right away.
Agree.
The most, I think, because these episodes are only 11 minutes and because there's so much going on at the moment, a sign of an episode with this show, and obviously we can't do it because of I tend to record just before I tend to watch just before we record, so we can't do it. But I think if I was watching this normally, a sign of a good Steven Universe episode would be rewinding it and watching certain clips again. And I think Bismuth appearing is a clip that I'd be tempted to rewatch, and her and Stephen talking is definitely a clip I'd be tempted to rewatch. And I'm very excited for what it means going forward. I love the notion at the end where they all have the group hug. I love it even more because again it's just this wonderful maturity from Amethyst, where she just nudges Stephen and then she tells Peridot, let's give him some space. It's such a mature attitude from a character that you could have played the jealousy plot with, for her to just be like, nope, they've got history, they need this. I'm very intrigued, given their history. Peridot and Lapis don't really have the history with them, and they don't have those years of bonding. So you could introduce those as new characters and put them on the barn or flying around in space. What you do with Bismuth and how you write her out almost, or do you not write her out? What the crystal gems looks like moving forward is very exciting to me.
So you think
personally,
you think there's a distinct possibility that Bismuth is a more permanent member of the team now?
Oh, she did. Why would she not be? Stephen describes her as one of the crystal gems. Stephen says, "I want you to join the team," but also there's no reason to bubble her again. They've sorted out all their
agree.
stuff. They're all good.
Yeah, but equally though, you could argue that with sort of Lapis and Peridot, and they've only been sort of part timers.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But they've not got the history. They've not got the bond.
They didn't follow Rose originally, so they're
so there's less
right,
them. I wouldn't buy Bismuth going to live with them in the barn as much as I buy them doing that. Lapis has got her own stuff. Peridot was a villain, and has been learning to adapt. But to be honest with you, even Peridot at this point, like. I mean, I know the barn's in space, so maybe the notion is Peridot is living with them, but I kind of don't buy Peridot.
I'm pretty
being
sure
completely separate.
I think she is living with them at the moment. I think.
Yeah, she's in the bathroom, isn't she? So
yeah, that's true.
So I wouldn't really overly, unless Lapis returns, I wouldn't overly buy Peridot moving out. I mean, maybe Bismuth and Peridot set something up. It's going to be interesting how they handle that. I mean, to be honest with you, I hope they don't. My ideal is I still want the Avengers spinning round shot. I still want the fight with them all in there. I want that, and I like the notion of the crystal gems moving forward being all of them together,
like a unit, a true unit with the full team.
Yeah. Like, that classic shot in the first movie, it's New York and the pan round. In the second movie, it's either them going at the beginning or the pan round with all the Ultrons at the end.
There's an equivalent pan round at the end of the second one, and there's that shot through the forest in the first where they're all leaping at the same time.
No, in the first act of in the first part of the movie, it's them leaping through the forest. In the second part, which is the one I prefer, because Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are part of the team. It's the other pan round. We didn't really get it in Avengers 3. I'm hoping we get it with all of them in Avengers 4, and I really want that moment from Steven Universe. So that's kind of what I would do going forward. But how the show handles it excites me. But fundamentally, my big takeout is just I love the fact that they talked and came to the conclusion. I think there's a lot to love in this episode, Dan.
Yeah, no, 100% agree with all of those sentiments. I think it's a funnier episode than you might think initially. On the rewatch, I realized how often I was laughing. It's actually really funny. Like, it has so many great jokes, like Steven's attempt to do one of the bismuth puns. Did you bismuth me? And the payoff of that being how awkwardly Bismuth tries to reintroduce herself later on. There's that great moment when Bismuth's like, well, of course Rose didn't want me to shatter Pink. I made a device to shut up, like, hey Rose, I'm gonna shatter you with it. Like, that's pretty funny.
I like come on in, Stephen. The lava's lovely.
Yeah. And then, no thanks, I'm not lava proof. That's great. And I'm not just going to list jokes, but that's just a few examples of why this episode is absolutely hilarious. And I think if you'd have told me they were going to bring Bismuth back, I would have envisioned a much more tonally serious episode.
And the last we saw her, she was trying to shatter Steven.
Yeah, and it's like I said when with the single pale rose reveal, I was like, well, Bismuth's a different situation now. At some point you've got to handle that, because it changes the entire debate they were having. It's a whole new angle now. It's a whole new situation. Like, it's not nowhere near as clean cut as it seemed back when we met Bismuth in episode 100. And that's mad as well. It's been nearly 50 episodes since we last saw Bismuth. Like, it's hard to believe that it's been that long.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I think the idea of bringing Bismuth back is a huge bonus. I think it has huge but very cool implications going forward. I was very excited, very excited about the prospect. I am very excited about the prospect of Bismuth being present. I like the idea of Bismuth getting to know Amethyst and Peridot. like doing stories about that.
Yeah.
Because you're right, we've got pre-established relationships with Pearl and Garnet, and by proxy Ruby and Sapphire, but legitimately, I think I'm kind of interested to see how she's going to relate to everyone else. I also think as well, like, it's really clever the way they get you back on Bismuth's side as an audience. I mean, she was always an like a not a villain, but like an antagonist you sort of understood in that first episode that she appeared. You know why she's going after Steven in the end. You understand. She's been, Steven to her is weak. Like, the answer is to take out the diamonds, and if he's refusing to kill, and he's as bad as Rose, and that's how everyone else ended up, lost to the wind. So I think, like, a very understandable situation. What they did, which is beautiful in this episode, is anyone who was still feeling a little tense about Bismuth after what Bismuth did at the end of her original episode, that is instantly diffused with, oh, not Ruby and Sapphire, they're my favorite couple. It's just such affection for characters you feel affection with. You automatically, it's one of those lines that you don't realize is working on so many levels. First of all, it sets up the wedding and the reason Steven's down there, but it also sets up or creates a slightly better dynamic for the audience's the viewer's reaction to Bismuth. Softens Bismuth for you just a little, and then seeing that vulnerability.
But don't you think they do that? Don't you think they do that with Steven forgiving her?
That helps, but Steven will forgive anyone. Steve,
okay,
I think it's weird. It's you've sort of got to slowly win the audience round. Steven feeling comfortable enough to forgive her is a good first step, and it does definitely give you, the audience, a little bit of confidence because you've learned to trust Steven at this point. But then you get actual confirmation that she is genuinely one of the gang. Like, she loves Ruby the same way, Ruby and Sapphire, the same way that Steven does, and that's. I don't know, that her having that affection for the characters we have affection for sort of shows she was misunderstood or sort of disagreed with Steven, but she was never really a bad guy. She was misinformed. So everyone was. That's kind of beautiful, and they're all kind of in the same boat now. I just think that's a really important step in the making the audience comfortable with the idea of Bismuth. Again.
Yeah, I hadn't spotted that. That's a good shout.
Yeah, I think it's just it's not the only thing that does it, but it's a really clever sort of dual way to get you on board with her, because it has another function of sort of setting up the next bit of dialogue, which is Steven saying, while I'm down here.
I loved as well. Rose, should I say Steven? It's actually a third option now.
Yeah, that's.
I loved.
Laughed so much at that.
I loved it because the other reason that moment is powerful at the moment you were just talking about is because it emulates what Steven said. I think either at the beginning of this episode or the last episode. And the reason that's cool is because it helps you fill in the gaps yourself with their conversation. Like, part of me, wishes to see Steven tell the story and how Bismuth is reacting, but obviously they don't put it there because we don't need it. We already know that story, and we kind of get the main bit of her reaction when she screams and stuff. But it helps you just kind of buy that they're on enough of a similar wavelength for Steven telling that story to be enough.
Yeah, I think you run into a danger in this show when you make a reveal like that, if not all the characters are present, of then having to go and explain it to all the characters, or you just cut to a week later and everyone knows, but then you don't get the drama of the revelation. What I think has been really cool is they've gone, okay, let's deal with how this character deals with it, and we looked at Sapphire, then let's look at Ruby, then let's look at Amethyst, then let's look at Ruby, and it's like, well, Pearl already knew. We dealt with Greg in the Ruby one. And it's like, well, who's left that would be affected by this? There aren't many. So you move on to the next person, which is Bismuth. I mean, it's genuinely one of the characters that I first thought of when they made that reveal, honestly. And that's not an exaggeration. I turned to Nadia and I was like, fuck, like, this has so many ramifications. And honestly, within two sentences of that, I think I said, fuck, think of Bismuth. Like, I just, it makes such logical sense. to do this. So yeah, I think it's a really solid. Like, no, not solid. This is an amazing episode.
Lapis doesn't know yet, does she?
No, but how would you think?
Yeah.
How does I was thinking about that? Like, how does that affect Lapis?
You could do something interesting of her best friend is her greatest enemy. But I think she's intelligent enough to know that Stephen doesn't have her memories, doesn't know that, etc.
Yeah, but Stephen,
I think the Lapis story almost comes later. You have you do, we theorized, and I do stand by it. The notion that Stephen is in some way going to pause and make friends with blue and yellow, and you maybe have white be the new threat. So maybe the Lapis story comes in the form of Lapis can't handle the fact that Stephen is okay with blue and yellow and friends with them, and Lapis just can't get to grips with that aspect of it. She's like, well, how can you trust them? How can you work with them?
See, that makes way more sense to me, because when you said, like, oh, Stephen's Lapis' greatest enemy, she already knew that, because she was fighting on the gem side, the homeworld side.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So her greatest enemy was Rose Quartz. She was fighting Rose's rebellion. When she got poofed by our bismuth, but let's be honest, probably our bismuth. Which also leads me to think that, like, if they ever do, if and when they choose to bring Lapis back, there's a conversation has to happen there, because she got stuck in a mirror because a bismuth sort of poofed her, and I only know of one. So, to my knowledge,
it's so difficult, because what do you do? Because I still want the triumphant return moment, and when I talk about my Avengers lineup, I absolutely want Lapis in it.
Right.
It would suck, actually. God, if we get that lineup. If we get the lineup and she's not in it, I want her to fucking come back immediately, and then they do the lineup again. Like, I'll be annoyed if that shot doesn't include her, doesn't include them all. So, yeah, I think do you do that, and then you have a kind of like, the fight ends, and she's just looking at Bismuth like, wait a sec. But equally, you can't. It's going to be so interesting to see how they play that, because you can't play it as this is going to make Lapis run away again, because everyone would just be like, oh fucking come on, like
because presumably for her to, because you're right, because following that train of thought, for her to come back, it's got to be a triumphant return. It's got to be. I agree with you.
Has to be.
But yeah, you'd be crapping all over that if you then had her run away because of bismuth. So
so that's just going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think that's one of the more interesting elements of Bismuth coming back to me on this sort of, at least sort of for the foreseeable future, because I'm still not convinced it's going to be long-term thing. Like, keep in mind now, I'm only 2 episodes ahead of you now. Keep in mind,
and 2 episodes that aired together as well.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And but
you've not watched. I assume you're not. I assume that
you're
not watching the Comic-Con episode until we're about to record.
Oh no, I'm watching it with Nadia tonight.
Well, yeah, but we're pretty close to us recording, Dan. I mean, if I have to wait to recording days, why now when we're caught up? Would you not watch it in the same format as me?
Because Nadia's not going to wait.
Well, make your choice.
I made my choice. I'm watching it tonight. But I will say, so when we discuss the next episode, I'll have already watched the one after. But I will say,
you've just always got to be ahead, haven't you, Dan?
Well, got to be ahead. Let me finish my sentence, Chris. I think we need to make a deal now that from that episode, the Comic-Con one, which I won't name here, we'll wait till we get to closer. I think from that point on, that's not how we do the podcast anymore. I think if an episode airs while I'm in Japan, watch it.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. What are you?
No, I'm telling you, watch it.
Yeah. But you reckon just we watch it when it airs and then talk about it.
I mean, it might be worth recapping it for ourselves when we watch it.
Yeah. But you've got the bigger problem in a way, because if our recording schedule lines a certain way, you've potentially got to watch it without Nadia. I mean, we all know you've done that before, but will she be happy, knowing that?
Should be fine with that. And then I just have to, as long as they should be fine with that, as long as I promise to then watch it again with her.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, it is interesting. Yeah, that it does fact that I had considered that. Like, if we're recording on a Friday, do we wait until the Friday to watch the episode? Like,
no, you just watch it and we'll do it.
Yeah, it is going to be a really weird shift. Us both knowing the same amount.
Honestly, that once we do that Comic-Con episode, this podcast will,
as long
forever
as Cartoon
be...
Network don't drop another one as discussed. So for those listening, you may know that they have. If they haven't, we're at the moment we can only schedule. Like, again, it's been a real faff working out getting these done. We love that they dropped one, but it's caused us problems. So
yeah,
assuming
between that and this bomb, it's screwed us a little. But yeah, this podcast will be forever different now. I think because it's always going to be from a perspective of having watched sets of episodes, even maybe.
It's going to be. Oh God.
Yeah.
What happens
Chris,
if they do? What happens if they do Wanted?
Chris,
do we watch it all and then
no.
break it down?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I release you. Yeah. You are free. You can watch ahead because you're a caught up fan now. You are welcome to watch the damn show. We shouldn't be watching these completely so in future we'll be able to talk about the everything openly. I don't want to go back to.
It's a shame though that Wanted would therefore become one episode.
No, it wouldn't. It'd still 4 episodes. We would do it as 4 episodes.
We'd have to just try.
We talk about each part individually.
Focus the conversation, yeah. Try and focus the conversation.
Well, yeah, I've had to do that the whole time because I've always known what the next episode is. So we'll just do what you've got to do that now.
I think it'll be hard for me not to I'd still be asking you questions like you know stuff, but I'll forget that you don't know anything.
Mate, you've been doing that the last couple of you've been doing that since since. God knows what. You've been asking questions of me for the last sort of 10, 15 episodes that I genuinely am just I don't know. They've not gotten to it yet. Do you know what I mean? You asked me so many questions about Mystery Girl and other stuff that I'm just it hasn't happened yet, mate.
Yeah, because I'm assuming, and people will moan at you for this, but I'd be very surprised, because if Pearl's not been texting her, I'd be surprised if Pearl's having a secret relationship with Mystery Girl now. So, unless, and it would be cool as fuck, but short of Mystery Girl appearing as a guest at the wedding, and now that I've put that idea out there, you're not going to confirm or deny.
Of course
I'm assuming we've not got to Mystery Girl yet.
It's a reasonable assumption.
Yeah.
But that's my point.
Yeah,
but that's my point. Is you're asking me questions, and I'm just the last sort of 10, 15 episodes have been hell because half the questions I had the answers to, but had to play coy, and half the questions I legitimately didn't have the answers to. But by telling you that, you would then know we didn't have the answers yet, which would help you put together what we were dealing with. And it's so I had to be coy about that too. So yeah, I want to. From this point on, we're watching it as fans, and we'll analyze each episode one by one as normal. But we may potentially have foreknowledge because if they release multiple ones at once, we are, of course, gonna watch them all and then discuss them. But we'll do it in the order they aired and one by one, so they all get their credit, as it were. But this podcast will be very different following us being caught up.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm not looking forward to potentially, a 90-minute discussion of the movie because we do seem to at minimum match the length of the episode.
Yeah, the movie's an interesting situation.
Be a long one.
The movie is an interesting situation. We'll get to that. That's a whole thing. Yeah. But so I think with this episode particularly, I also really loved the rings thing. That's so clever.
Yeah, it's a very sweet
stuff.
Moment.
Really sweet. It's clear that Bismuth has no idea what a wedding is, but I love that line of well, Steven seemed to think these would be useful, and then that kind of cheeky smile on Bismuth's face because he very clearly explained the importance.
Yeah,
of
that's
the
what I
rings.
took from it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I loved that though because it was such a sweet moment because she's acting I don't know, these old things, maybe they're useful, but the implication being that she knew exactly how important those would be to them, and that makes the gift all the sweeter.
Who are the names? Because this presumably will lead into Triv because it will be in there. So, assuming you've got no more sort of episode chatter, who are the names on the cards? Who are the suggested invitees of the wedding?
I don't have that, but let's have a look.
Because I saw Dewey,
Yeah.
I assume Greg and Connie,
Yeah.
who I want to stick around for my lineup.
Sure.
Certainly Connie.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Fucking on lion with a fucking sword. Hell yeah.
I love it when you get all like enthusiastic about like this. I've got it right here. Let me have a look then.
But because that'd be fucking brilliant.
Yeah. Bring it up.
Ideally, right? Wedding's nearing the end. No, this isn't ideal because I want the romantic moment of the wedding. But the wedding's ending, and they say I do, and then they look up. Fucking ships are coming. They say I do. They fuse. Garnet's back. Garnet says, "Crystal gems, assemble."
and then they
light up, ready.
Like the Avengers music kicks in. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
Wait, this is
the best use of the Avengers movie was music was Thor's entrance in 3. But yeah.
Wait, what was it called? What music? I'm thinking of this.
The
one.
Avengers.
Wait. This is what you want.
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah, the end of that was used in careful Dan, it's Disney. Stop playing it, Dan.
We got
Stop
to
playing
we got to 21 seconds, we're fine. We played the whole dog theme and no one said shit, and Disney owns that now.
Yeah. The end of that is what's used in Thor's entrance in 3.
Is it?
Yeah. I think it's the team music when he enters, because the theme's not been sort of... The theme is, at least my interpretation, is the theme is teased throughout, and then they full blast it when Thor appears.
Yeah, maybe. My memory of that is vague, but yeah.
So... Oh, they used the music so well in that film.
Yeah,
anyway, so who you got the invitees there?
No, I got distracted by pulling up the Avengers music. Well, it's here.
No one asked you to do that, Dan. No one asked you to get sued by Disney.
Okay.
Unless we review it. It's really great music, and my favourite use of it is in the when Thor appears in Avengers 3. There you go. It's a review now.
I've got Peridot, Pearl, Amethyst, Yellowtail, Mr. Dewey, and Jenny on those cards that I can see. Let me go further back and see if it will, if I can.
So who's Jenny?
Jenny, isn't Jenny and Kiki?
Oh yeah, of course. Well, it's just an odd combination. So why is Kiki not there? And
No, here you go. Okay, so the full list, because I can see the full thing now. So on one end, it's Nanafoy, Kiki, Kofi, Fryman, Vidalia, Peridot, Yellowtail, Pearl, Amethyst, Mr. Dewey, Jenny, and then there's more you can see on the one side, but you can't read them.
Okay, so you'd assume on the other side is basically everyone, Mr. Smiley, etc. Jamie.
Yeah, presumably. Like, they've invited the town.
Oh, if the town are there. Oh, I'm excited, Dan. Is it really not listed in the Triv, though, who's on the invite?
No, it's not. Which is weird.
That's nuts.
Yeah,
somebody had that. Well, I suppose there's not been much time, to be fair, but...
Yeah, that does seem a bit weird. It doesn't seem to be there. No, I'm going through it. I can't find it. But it has got some other information. Would you like some other information?
Triv will be weird going forward. Depending on when we record, there might not be any Triv added yet.
Yeah, that's true. The title of this episode is based on the term Maid of Honor. Because it's Maid of Honor, but it's Maid of Honor.
Yeah, I got that, yeah. They even say that in the episode.
They do. Yeah. They do. It's really cool.
So that's there, but not the list. Weird.
Yeah. This episode confirmed that Biggs, a former crystal gem mentioned by Bismuth in the episode of the same name, and the orange Great North monster are one in the same. Biggs Jasper. It's a kind of jasper.
Cool.
This episode reveals the names of 4 more crystal gems that we haven't heard before. Tiger's Eye, Larimar, Serpentine, and Beryl.
When you put into context how long, because these are gems we've seen, it did make me think, man, given how long they've been on Earth, there's a hell of a lot of gems they've been fighting.
Yeah, they've been there for thousands of years, though. So
yeah, so thousands of years worth of corrupted gems that they've been fighting.
That's pretty mad.
Cool, carry on.
This episode immediately begins after the question. We knew that. Bismuth mentions that she tried to shout at Stephen at Bismuth moments before briefly calling him Rose before correcting herself, having made the aforementioned attempt due to thinking that he was her in human disguise. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's more of a continuity thing than a trivia thing. There's really very little here.
That's cool.
Oh, one of the gifts you can see on the registry is a copy of Elite Meat Beat Mania. So Meat Beat Mania is the game that Garnet played a lot in Arcade Mania. And one of the gifts you could buy for her on her wedding, you know, when Stephen flicked through the registry, was Elite Meat Beat Mania. I thought that was very funny.
No, shout out to Peridot with the can as well. You'd have liked that moment.
Yeah, it's a good moment that she has the can up and then everyone drops theirs when Bismuth shows up, but she still has hers up and she's like, I'm the winner! Which is a weird thing to say, but yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Good stuff. You watched this immediately before Reunited, didn't you?
I did, yeah. The last four... No, the last three? I think we watched the two earlier in the week. I'd have to double check, but I think we watched two earlier in the week.
This is what I remember you saying you were doing, yeah.
And then it was going to be 3 and 3, but in the end it ended up being 2 and 4 because I was working in the evenings during the week, so I couldn't watch one of them with Nadia anyway. So we watched 2 at the beginning of the week, and then at the end of the week, on the Saturday after they'd all aired, we watched the remaining, essentially 4, but 3 really, because obviously the final one's a double. So yeah, we watched all this together, which is pretty mad.
Give me a tease, Dan.
A tease?
Yeah, man. This is the last time you'll be able to give me a tease.
Oh god, that's actually a really good point.
Well, unless you.
Oh no, because when we record the next episode, I'll have already seen. Yeah. So second to last time I can give you a tease.
Okay, well, second to last time then you got to give me a tease.
I'll give you a tease. Okay. Let me think about it. Oh, I know, Chris. I've had a thought. One sec.
You're gonna make Nadia give me a tease.
There's your tease.
Okay.
No, I think
Thor's coming.
No, I will say that it is. I find it. I tell you this. No, this is my legit tease. I find it mildly ironic they bothered to announce a Steven Universe film, because the next episode is quite epic. And I remember when it finished saying to Nadia, well, they don't need to do a movie because they made this.
Yeah, we will do again, you know, who knows when it'll be up because of scheduling. But we will do an episode where we chat about the movie and some of the stuff said at Comic-Con. Obviously I don't really know what was said, but I know about the movie because there's no spoilers with that. Yeah, I'm conflicted about the movie, so we will chat about that.
Yeah, me too. I think a lot of people are because of its like.
Yeah, I'm not sure it warrants a 90-minute format. So yeah, we shall see.
Yeah, we will see. I agree. So yeah, thanks everyone very much for listening. I know this is a slightly shorter one, which is weird because I actually envisioned these two episodes being the other way around. I thought Ruby Rider will never get 50 minutes out of that, but Maid of Honor, we'll talk about that till the cows come home. But... Because
it's another one where the beauty of it is what we talked about. The beauty of it is how they handle bismuth, and yeah, and excitement for the next episode and everything they set up. Yeah, again, I think the way they do that with talking, perfect, it's brilliant stuff.
Yeah, it's a great episode.
That's we finished the last episode.
Apologising. Go on.
Apologising for going over. So there's nothing wrong with this one coming in nicely on time.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, actually. Yeah, okay, cool. So that is very much everything for this episode.
Were you going to say it's nice to have me like so excited and enthusiastic?
No, it's nice to have you genuinely surprised by something as well. Like Bismuth, you really did not call. Like so much stuff you call usually an episode or two ahead.
I'd assume Bismuth was left out. I assume Bismuth was a surprise for many.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean,
he wasn't in the promo, was he?
No.
Sorry.
Bismuth wasn't in any promo that I saw.
Okay.
So yeah, I think some people might have been spoiled because my understanding is that that big spoiler they leaked on that podcast.
Yeah.
One of the things that included was Bismuth. So.
Right. Okay.
So I think some people saw it coming as a result of that.
Right. Okay.
Thankfully, I hadn't seen that, and I only had a vague idea of what it might have contained. So I was very much outside of the information, and therefore it was a genuine surprise for me. So I was very pleased.
Cool. Awesome. I'm glad we both had that.
Yeah, me too. Particularly the way they reveal it is just so cool. The music and stuff. But anyway, so that is very much everything for this week. Thanks, guys, for listening. We'll speak to you. Sorry, for this episode, I should say. I've been Dan Doolan.
I've been Chris Billingham.
And we'll speak to you guys tomorrow as we discuss the United.